Continuing where I left off, the Trojan column now approached the town, with Tuscan chiefs and all their cavalry, in numbered squadrons. Over the level ground, with thudding hooves, the war-horse trots and snorts and rears up, tugging at the cheek of rein, and curves here and there, the wide and steel glinting. Field bristles with lances, the long vistas, teams with upright arms against them soon. Messapus and the headlong Latin horse, Chorus, his brother, and Camilla's wing came into view. Defenders in the field, with lances drawn back, then in forward thrust, and with a brandishing of javelins. The onward rush of men and horses neighing blazed in the sunlight. When they came within spear throw of one another, Trojan and Latin pulled up in a halt. Then, all at once, with shouts they spurred their furious mount and flung their javelins in showers from both sides, as thick as snowflakes, making a daytime dusk. Now, shaft to shaft, tyrannous and a savage, Latin horseman Acantius met head-on with a mighty crash that caused the first downfall from shock of horses, breast to bursting breast. Acantius pitched off like a thunderbolt, or stone out of catapult, came down far off, his life dispersed into the air, and this, their lines disordered, Latin troopers turned, and tossing shields behind their shoulders, rode off toward the town. Asellus led the Trojan squadrons in pursuit. But then, when they're near walls again, the Latins shouted, yanked the horses, yielding necks about, and wheeled to fight. Now Trojans fled in turn, at a full gallop as in full retreat. Just at the sea with altering rush, now runs ashore in foam above the ledges, and lapping the soaks the sand high on the beach, now in rapid seething ebb recedes, and glides from land and pulls the rolling pebbles. Twice the Tuscans drove the Rutilians headlong to the walls, but thrown back twice they fled, glancing behind, their shoulders covered. Now, when they came together a third time, the two formations mingled, man to man, and then indeed groans of the dying rose. Their arms and bodies in a mire of blood went down, and dying horses with their riders butchered as the bitter fight surged on. Orsilochus, in dread of meeting Remulus, hurled his javelin at the other mounts, and left the steel point under his ear. At this the war-horse reared in fury, 4 legs high, to shake the wound away, with towering chest, and Remulus was thrown to earth. Catulus brought down Iolus, then Hermanus, great-souled, great-body warrior, his bare head flowing with tawny locks, his shoulders bare. Wounds held no terrors for him, great as he was, fighting uncovered. But the driven lance, a quiver, passed clean through his shoulder's breadth, and made him double up in agony. Dark blood split everywhere. Man dealt out death by cold steel as they fought and strove by wounds to win the beauty of courageous death. Amid the carnage, like an Amazon, Camilla rode exultant, one breast bared, fighting ease, her quiver at her back. At times she flung him javelins thick and fast. At times tireless, caught up her two-edged axe. The golden bow, Diana's weapon, rang upon her shoulders. Yes, when she gave ground, forced to retreat, with bow unslung in flight, she turned and aimed her arrows. At her side rode chosen comrades, virgins all, Larina, Tulla, Tarpeia, shaking her bronze axe. These were the girls of Italy that she, divine Camilla, picked to be her bride, her staunch handmaidens, both in peace and in war. So ride the hardened Amazons of Thrace, with drumming hooves on frozen Thermonon, warring in winter in their painted gear, sometimes around Hippolyta the chieftain, or when the daughter of Mars, Penthesilea, drives her chariot back victorious. And women warriors bearing crescent shields exult, riding in tumult with wild cries. Savage girl, whom did you lance on horse? What victims first and last? How many thrown down on the battlefield, torn bodies dying? Ionis, sightless son, came first. He faced her with unarmored breast, and with her shaft of pine she ran him through. He tumbled, coughing streams of blood, took bites, of bloody earth, and dying writhed on his wound. Then she brought Liris down, and then Pegasus. Liris, his mount stabbed under him, spun off, and tried to gather up the reins. Pegasus, coming to help, put out his hand unarmed, and both alike went down. She sent to join them Hippotas' son, Amastrius, at a distance. Pressing on with couch lance, she rode after Tereus, Harpalycus, Demophoon, and Chromis, and for every javelin she twirled and cast a fragrant trooper fell, still out of range. Ordytus, a hunter, rode at a piggin horse in strange war gear, his broad shoulders covered by bullock's hide, his head by a huge wolf's muzzle gaping wide with gleaming fangs. In his right hand he held a forester's bladed hunting spear. This man now wheeled about, the tallest by a head, amid his company, but soon Camilla caught him from behind, no effort there, since all were in retreat, and ran him through. Then from above, heart full of hate, she said, "In forest were you, Tuscan, flushing game. The day has come when boast of all your kind are proven wrong by women under arms. You'll take no light fame to your father's shades, to have been killed by the lance head of Camilla." She killed next two of the very tallest Trojans, Orsoculus and Butes. Butes' head being turned, she put her lance-lead in the gap between his helm and cuirass, where the neck showed white, above the shield on the left arm. Then running as Orsoculus gave chase in a wide circuit, tricking him, she closed a narrowing ring till she became pursuer. Then to her full height risen drove her axe, repeatedly through helmet and through bone, as the man begged and begged her to show mercy. Warm brains from his head wound wetted his face. One who came upon her at that moment reined in, taken aback at the sudden sight. The son of Ionis, a Panai mountaineer, not the least guileful of Ligurians, this man was, while fate allowed him guile. Seeing he could not spur away from combat, could not deflect the queen from her attack, resorting to a cunning running ruse, he said, "What's so remarkable if, to a girl's taste, your mainstay is your horse? No running away. Take me on, hand to hand, on level ground. Get ready for a fight on foot, and learn whose blown-up vanity will have a fall." Now bitter anger made her burn at this. She gave her friend a mount and faced the man, fearlessly on foot with equal arms. A naked blade, a shield without device, but he, who thought his ruse had worked, rode off without a pause, reining his mount around, goading into a run with iron spurs. "Ligurian fool, too cocksure much too soon. Your slippery native trickery has failed. No chance it will return you in your skin to honest the old deceiver." So the girl called out in sprint with lightning pace. She came abreast and passed the running horse, then whirled and yanked the reins and met the shock of the Ligurian's onset, making him pay her penalty in hated blood. So easily a falcon, sacred bird, from his rock tower will strike a soaring dove high in a cloud, and grip her as he tears her viscera with crooked talons, blood, and plucked out feathers from the sky. But on that seeing, the father of gods and men kept no indifferent watch from his aerial set on Olympus. He roused the Tuscan, touched on, then to the melee, instilling anger in him, far from mild. So that amid the carnage, where the companies of horse were giving way, Tarchon rode out, when one shout or another rallying, the left and right wings, calling men by name, putting new fight in routed cavalry. Incapable of shame, poltrons forever, Tuscans, what is this fright? What cowardice has entered into you? Shall a single woman drive you out of line, break your formations? What do we carry swords for? Why hold on to useless lances? None of you is tamed when it comes to making love, bed wars at night, or when a flute preludes the dance of Bacchus. Look for a feast and cups on Latin tables. All you care for, all of you keen for, yes, when some dependable reader of the entrails heralds an offering, and a fatted lamb is calling you into the sacred wood. With this he gave rein to his mount, prepared to face death, he as well in the brothers' battle's heart, and straight for Venus went storming on. With his right arm he swept him from the saddle, hugged him to his chest, and spurring hard with a great effort, lunged the man away. A yell went up to heaven as all the Latins turned to watch, and like a streak of lightning, Tarchon with his load of men and weapons flew over open ground. Then he broke off. The steel point of the enemy lanced and groped for an opening where he could wound and kill him. But fighting back, the other warded off. The hand aimed at his throat, met force with force, as when a golden eagle flapping skyward bears a snake as prey, her feet entwined, but holding fast with talons, while the victim, wounded as it is, coils and uncoils, and lifts cold greasy scales and towers up with hissing maw. But all the same the eagle strikes the wrestler snake with crooked beak, while beating with her wings the air of heaven. Just so, out of the Latin squadron, Tarchon triumphing bore off his prey, and Tuscans heeding the example their captain gave, his daring that came off at once attacked it. One Arnis, a man marked by fate, rode wide around Camilla, javelin at the ready, waiting his chance ahead in the cunning wherever in the melee the girl rode in her wild forays. Aruns kept behind, silently stalking her. When she turned back, blooded from the enemy, he drew rein in stealth and swung his nimble mount away. Now this way, looking for an opening. Now that he shadowed her, going about a circuit on all sides. The dangerous man, a dead shot, hefting clear his pointed shaft. By chance, Chlorus, Mount Celebes' vulture, once a priest came shining from far off. In fragrant gear, he spurred a foaming mount, in a saddle-cloth of hide with scales of bronze as thick as plumage, interlinked with gold. The man himself, splendid in rust and purple, out of the strange east drew a Lycian bow to shoot Jornatian arrows. At his shoulder golden was the bow, and golden too the helmet of the seer, and tawny gold the brooch that pinned his cloak as it belled out, and snapped in wind a chlamys, crocious yellow. Tunic and trousers too, both Eastern style, were brilliantly with embroidery. Camilla began to track this man, her heart's desire, either to fix luxurious Trojan gear on a temple door, or else herself to flaunt that golden plunder, blindly as a huntress, following him, and him alone of all who took part in the battle. She rode on, through a whole scattered squadron, recklessly, in a girl's love of finery. Now at length, from where he lurked, seeing the time had come, Aruns went into action, let his javelin come alive, and prayed aloud to heaven. Supreme God, holy Socrates' guardian, above all others, we are blessed in thee, for whom the pine chip's glowing pile is fed. Assured by our devotion, in thy coat we step through beds of embers without harm. Mighty Apollo, grant that we wipe out with arms this ignominy. I want no spoils, no trophy of a beaten girl. My actions elsewhere will bring me honor. May this dire scourge of battle perish when hit by me. Then to the cities of my ancestors, with no pretense of glory, I'll return. Phoebus heard, and felt disposed to grant his prayer in part. The rest he gave the winds to blow away. Grantis Aaron should fail, Camilla in the shock of death. Denied that Aaron's land should see the man return. That plea the gale winds wafted to the south. So when the javelin whistled from his head, the Volscians to a man, fiercely intent, looked toward their queen. Oblivious of the air around her, of the whistling shaft, the weapon glided from high heaven. She remained until the javelin swooped and thudded home beneath her naked breast. There, driven deep, the shank drank the girl's blood. In consternation, fellow troopers gathered on the run to catch and hold their captain, as she dropped. But Aruns on the instant galloped off in a dazed and fearful joy. He put no further trust in his lance nor in himself to meet the warrior girl in arms, just as a wolf, who killed a shepherd or a full-grown steer, makes off cross-country for the hills to hide before the arrows chase him, knowing well his kill was reckless. Tail curved down between his legs to his quaking belly, off he goes. Just so, Aruns in panic made himself scarce, well out of it amid a crowd of horsemen. Dying, Camellia tugged at the javelin, but the steel point between the ribs held fast in the deep wound. She drooped from loss of blood, her eyelids drooped, chill with approaching death, and the fresh glow of youth drained from her cheeks. When halting breath, she whispered now to Acca, one of her company, equally young, her confidante, most faithful of them all, and said, "Until now, sister, I was able. Now this wound galls me and finishes me. Everything around me is growing dark. Make your escape and take my last command. To Turnus, that he join the battle here, to keep the Trojans from the town. Farewell." Even while speaking, she let slip the reins and slid fainting to earth. Little by little, growing cold, the girl detached herself from her whole body and put down her head, death's captive now, upon her strengthless neck, and let her weapons fall. Then, with a groan for the indignity, her spirit fled into the gloom below. Now, spreading measureless, a shout went up to strike the golden stars. Camilla gone, to fight became more savage. Massed for battle, Trojans in all their force pressed on, with Tuscan captains and the Arcadians of Evander. As for the sentinel of Diana, Opis, resting all this time on mountain top, she had been watching without fear, but now she sighted, far off in the furious din of cavalries, Chameleon beaten down and pitifully dead. Then from her heart the nymph said, groaning, "It is too cruel, girl, your punishment, too cruel for having tried to challenge Trojans in the war. Devotion paid to Diana in your solitude in the wild wood. Our arrows on your shoulder do not avail you, yet your queen has left you, not without honor at the hour of death, nor will you end be unrenowned among earth's people, nor will it be known as unavenged. Whoever dared to pierce your body impiously pays with his life, and justly." On a mound in the mountain shade, the ancient king, Dacranus of Laurentum, had an ilex darkened massive tomb. Here, with an easy spring, most beautiful, the goddess mounted and looked down to Aruns. Seeing him bright in arms and puffed with pride, "Why turn aside?" she said. "Step this way, come and perish here. Enjoy the fit reward Camellia brings." "You wretch! Will even you die by Diana's arrows?" Then she picked up a feathered shaft out of the gilded quiver, and, taking deadly aim, drew the bow back, full circle, till the tips could almost meet. Her hands aligned it, the left hand felt the point, the right hand, taut bowstring, touched her breast. All in one instant, Aruns heard the arrow whistled in the ripped air, and the arrowhead thud in his body. As he moaned and died, his fellow troopers rode off unaware, and left him in the dust, a spot unknown on the wide terrain. Opis, taking wing, went soaring to the high Olympian air. Now first to leave the field, their mistress lost, were Camilla's light armed cavalry, then routed Rutilians made off, and fierce Aeneas, captains torn from squadrons, troops astray, wheeled toward the town and looked for safety there. No one at all could hold or make a stand, with javelins against the Trojan onset. Bows were unstrung on slumping shoulders, galloping hooves shook up the loose dry mire in the field. A dusky cloud of churned-up dust rolled onto the city walls, where mothers on the towers with beaten breasts lifted their women's cry to the stars of heaven. Hard on the heels of men first breaking through the open gates, a crowd of enemy pressed, or men on both sides mingled, so there was no escape from piteous death, but in the very entry amid the walls of their own city, their protecting houses, lands from behind, they gave up lift and breath. Then, after some had shut the gates, they dared not open a way in for their friends or take them into the town, beg as they would. Now came a wretched slaughter, as the gate's defenders shot at the crowd that rushed upon their shots, kept out before the eyes of weeping parents. Some of those borne onward in the rout plunged headlong into the moat, and others rode in blind panic to batter at the gates, unyielding, barred against them. On the walls, even old women, mothers, as true love of homeland taught them, and as they had seen Camilla fight, outdid each other now, at hurling missiles with unsteady hands, in place of steel, hard oaken bulks and pikes, where fire-hardened points, for their town wall they dared not burn, to be the first to die. In the mountain wood, meanwhile, the cruel news filled Turnus' thought, as Acer brought him word of the great tumult. Vulcan's troops destroyed, Camilla fallen, foes in Mars' good graces carrying all before them, riding on, panic already at the city walls. Raging at Jove's hard will required, Turnus left the heights that he had manned and left the rough wood. Hardly was he out of sight and holding level ground, when Lord Aeneid entered the pass, unguarded now, and crossed the ridge and issued from the woodland shade. Then both, with no time lost, marched on the city, two whole hosts not many miles apart. Aeneas viewed the plain smoking with dust far off, and saw the army of Laurentum. Turnus at the same time recognized Aeneas' pitiless captain in the field, and heard the tramp of feet, the nigh of horses coming behind. In moments they would skirmish, go to the test of battle, had not reddened. Phoebus already dipped his weary team in the Spanish sea, and as the bright day ebbed, brought on the night. One army strengthened walls, the other encamped in quiet before the town. And I'm going to leave it off there. Thank you for watching. If you like, please give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Subscribe. Leave a comment below. You can view anything you want. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.